Hello and welcome to the WrestleTalk podcast here every Tuesday and Friday, and this week a double helping. Well, it's actually kind of not a double helping. It's one supersized helping because we will be back on Sunday with reviews of both WWE WrestlePalooza and AEW All Out.
And of course, we were also available on Wednesday this week when we did the WrestlePalooza predictions.
There's too much wrestling. Of course, if you haven't already, please subscribe wherever you consume this podcast. It could be on YouTube. It could be on Apple Podcasts. Just press the button for subscribe, which kind of fits, so we're going to keep it in. And really exciting news, you're sending in your comments. You are finding where else this podcast is available from. This is from Nerd Wizard 21. Boys, you wouldn't believe this. My dad just bought a telescope, and we were setting it up earlier and decided to test it out. We peered into the void and saw a few planets, but we noticed something carved into the moon. It was a giant QR code. We placed our phone to the telescope lens, and we found this podcast. Also found Ollie's book being promoted on Mars.
Do you know what? I'm really glad that finally those deals are coming into effect, because it was a long time getting like all of the ships up there to drill in the QR code into the moon. We had a lot of, I would say, bureaucrats and unelected people really trying to stop us from drilling into the moon.
And you would think it would make more sense to train the astronauts to drill. But no, we had to train a load of oil rig workers to become astronauts.
It made the most sense on paper, actually. People kept like, no, you're wrong. They know about drills. You can teach anyone about space.
Yeah. So yeah, that's glad that finally paid off. But there is also another place you should get this podcast from, but please definitely click it. It's a serious thing.
So yeah, Acast have asked us, we're our podcast partner, they're our podcast platform. Please do click the link, because they have asked you to give your thoughts on this podcast and tell them a little bit about you as well, so we can find out more about our audience so that they can improve this podcast in a way. So please click the link in the video description. It takes about 10 minutes to fill out the survey, but please go and fill out the survey. There's a link in the podcast and the video description.
Not improve us.
Oh, no, we're perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, improve the way the sort of their end of the podcast is.
Exactly.
We're talking about the ads. That's what we need your help on. Yeah. But yes, please click that link in the video description or podcast description. I don't think I said who we are. I'm Ollie Davis. This is Luca and DAD. And on this episode, we're going to be talking about AEW Dynamite.
We'll be giving our predictions for AEW All Out this coming Sunday. But first, we're going to be talking about Brock Lesnar, who has made his return to WWE, made his return at SummerSlam, and is having his first match in the company in over 2 years this weekend at WrestlePalooza.
Yeah, so it sounds like quite a philosophical title for a podcast episode about wrestling. What's the point of Brock Lesnar in 2025? What is the point?
So I was writing the WrestleTalk news for Thursday, and I was kind of struck thinking about Brock, because when he came back at SummerSlam, obviously, as you would imagine, there was a lot of online fury. There was also a lot of online fighting against the fury to be like, he's not guilty until proof, all of this sort of stuff. The bad faith and arguments on both sides of the debate.
And I would say in real life, no one really mentioned it at all.
Well, that's the point I was going to get to, was that like there was all of this online fury, both for and against Brock Lesnar returning. And then we were like, well, the only way this is going to change is if sponsors pull out. And no sponsors have pulled out.
I think, if anything, the sponsors have come in harder. Thank God, EMF. Thank God someone is out there to protect us from the electromagnetic frequencies.
Yeah, and the crystals.
No, the crystals are good.
Oh,
the crystals absorb
now,
ions, I believe, but the bad ions.
Right. Oh, well,
you don't want the bad ions.
Oh, God, that's the last thing I need. Yeah. So I was like, okay, so the sponsors don't seem particularly upset that Brock Lesnar is back. And then I was like, well, will it affect ticket sales? Nope. Ticket sales are still grand. Ticket sales for WrestlePalooza are really, really good and really, really strong. It's like a 12,000 setup. There's sort of about 11,000 tickets. very, very strong for there. Oh, will it affect the reaction to Brock when he's in the building? Nope. The crowd are just giving him regular heel heat, and in some cases, pop when he does a move or rips his trousers open. So there's no, like, it's one of those classic things within the wrestling bubble that we find ourselves in. People are like, whoa, this is going to affect, and it's not. And it doesn't affect the WWE as a greater whole at all, because the much wider WWE universe isn't as insular and into this stuff as we are.
They just watch the wrestling.
They just watch the show, and once it's watched, move on with their lives.
Do you think the majority of people just watched Morbius and thought, all right? And they weren't like, that's the worst film ever, or this is actually the best film ever, or did not care at all about the production history.
No, or more, it's Morbin time, and thinking that was a real line in the movie, to the point where Sony were like, oh, we're on this. Let's re-release this bad boy, and let's make it a critical flop twice. I'm sorry, a box office flop twice. Yeah, it's not everyone who goes to a movie is reading The Hollywood Reporter or listening to John Campier's podcast. Like, they just watch a movie, then go on with their lives. And I think there is a huge, much larger wrestling audience than we ever really give credit for that just watch the show. And once Raw ends, they just go to the next thing.
Yeah, it's autoplays, or they probably don't even finish Raw.
No,
they probably just watch an hour and go, oh, yeah,
it's fine.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I should probably make dinner now. So that's the story of Brock came back at the end of SummerSlam, which I thought was a really fun overall weekend, and it kind of put a sour note at the end of it. But Brock's back. Then you were like, he's appearing on that Friday's SmackDown.
Well,
He didn't. I just wanted to bring that up because I was wrong.
I thought, because they hadn't, by this point, they hadn't announced WrestlePalooza at this point yet. That was not in the calendar.
I don't think they even knew about it at that point.
So they didn't know they were doing WrestlePalooza. So I was like, it'll be a Clash in Paris, because, well, that's the next available date, and there's no Saudi show, so I guess it'll be Clash in Paris. More for me, of course.
So I think about 4 weeks goes by. Now we hit September. In theory, this is when viewership should pick back up after people are back into their usual routines after the summer holidays. We had Friday's episode, which was 2 Fridays ago now, and that was the big AJ Lee return, where they pretty much said, all but confirmed, AJ Lee is going to make her comeback on this episode.
Yeah.
And she did. That was in the main event. And that did a really good number. And also on that episode, they didn't announce, Brock Lesnar's going to do a run-in for the first time since SummerSlam and beat up both John Cena and Sami Zayn. Was that the previous?
No, that was 2 weeks ago. That's while I was on holiday. And then I got back, and then it was the episode where he beat up R-Truth.
Yes, okay, yeah. So then Brock appeared on last Friday's episode of SmackDown as well. So that's all we've had of Brock so far. And he's just there. He's an important thing because he is going against John Cena. But I feel like even WWE aren't really pushing Brock publicly in the way they would have previously.
Well, we saw this when they announced WrestlePalooza and the ESPN deal. Lesnar's name was not part of it. It was like John Cena, Cody Rhodes, Drew McIntyre, Rhea Ripley. They never mentioned Brock Lesnar. So I think that WWE are aware that he is named within a lawsuit against Vince McMahon and WWE themselves. So don't want to publicly say too much that he is back, but also we do want to use him because we think that he's a ratings draw.
It's I guess if I was to put on my evil hat and sort of see how you would do this, like Brock, you would bring Brock back like this in a kind of, we're just going to make him part of the furniture. We're not going to make a big song and dance about it. Yes, I know he is probably going to main event the big pay-per-view against John Cena. But really, like, comparatively to how they've treated Lesnar before, we're just going to normalize him for a couple of months, because we can then test the reactions as well. We're not putting all our eggs immediately into the Brock-shaped basket.
Yeah, 100%.
Which is a big basket, to be fair. And then by the time we're at Survivor Series or Royal Rumble and WrestleMania next year,
whatever it is,
he'll be all over the show. He'll be getting big pushes.
Maybe by that point, he'll be on the posters again. Because that's the other thing. They're not putting him on, as far as I'm aware, not putting him on any of the posters for WrestlePalooza or anything like that. Maybe they have done, but like, obviously he's on the match graphics and stuff. But yeah, you're right. Like, it doesn't feel like he is a focal part of the show. Which kind of then raises the question, what's the point in bringing him back then? Because you wanted to make this ESPN launch the biggest it possibly could be. So You brought back Brock, which is actually harder to say than you think. And you've brought back AJ Lee, and you're doing those two really big matches on the show. One of John Cena's last matches. You've got Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre. You are front-loading this show with all of your big top stars. So why then does it feel like it's not actually adding anything to the show?
Yeah, I feel like AJ Lee is the big thing going into it.
Way bigger. So WWE feel like they're pushing that as the bigger thing.
Yeah, of the John Cena matches thus far, the Cody matches, granted the first one was rubbish, but it had way more anticipation going in. The Randy Orton match, we were like, oh yeah, but this is the start. He'll get some better opponents later, and you have to do Randy Orton. That felt bigger. CM Punk felt bigger.
I would say all of the stuff around the CM Punk match felt bigger than the actual match they were doing.
Logan Paul maybe didn't feel
the tag match?
He's had a singles match.
He had a singles match.
Clash in Paris.
Yeah, the last one.
But that was more promoted.
It's the one good match he's had in this run. Actually, that's not fair. The SummerSlam match was also good.
There's part of me that thinks there is a bit of... When I say too close to him not being around, I'm not actually saying it's too close to any of the awful allegations. I think we can all agree those are awful allegations, and that is a whole reason why Brock should not be brought back while it's ongoing on its own. We're not really talking about that here. We've talked about it so much, and we're all in agreement that it's a bad idea.
I mean, you say we're all in agreement.
We're all in agreement.
We're all in agreement.
We're all in agreement.
I would say a good portion of the audience watching this are all in agreement, but there are some who are like, no, you are snowflakes or whatever it is.
Yeah. It's unfair.
He wasn't even named in the lawsuit, even though he was.
Multiple times. But it's like, it was only 2 years ago he had his most recent match. Mm-hmm. And I just don't think that's a long enough absence for Brock Lesnar, who, even when he was full-time, would go months and months and months without turning up. This doesn't feel like oh my God, Brock Lesnar's back. It feels like this is regular programming, and this most recent absence was slightly longer than the other ones.
It doesn't even feel like it is one of John Cena's 6 final appearances for WWE. Like, this doesn't feel like a big deal of a match. So again, it raises the question of, and actually this came up when he came back at SummerSlam. There are a few people when we had our Ultra Chats come in, and feedback we got to it was like, honestly, like, outside of the lawsuit stuff, I don't care about Brock Lesnar, and I haven't cared about Brock Lesnar for years. So what is he actually adding to the show? What is the point of Brock Lesnar being on WrestlePalooza?
He is a big name. This will be the first time really that TKO can really capitalize on its UFC crossover. Not that they're doing that.
Well, that's what I mean. Is like, so they put him on the show. I don't think that Brock Lesnar sold any extra tickets. I think that WWE are now in that position again where it's not a star that sells extra tickets. It is WWE themselves that just sell tickets. I think John Cena is the only guy, particularly in his retirement year, that if you announce him for a show, you will add extra tickets onto it. But I think, broadly speaking, if WWE announce they're doing a show, they will just sell X amount of tickets. So I don't think Brock Lesnar's adding there. He's not adding anything to the ratings. I don't think he's going to add any extra ESPN subscribers to DTC Plus, extra premium lovely stuff.
If you can find it.
Because that's going to be the bigger thing. No one's talking about Brock Lesnar adding new subscriptions to ESPN, because the bigger story around that is ESPN can't even get new people to sign up for it, because half the people they have can't really access it properly and have to pay twice as much to be able to get it.
And all those poor Comcast subscribers, they're big Brock fans.
That's where they are. All of the 20 million people that can't access it, they're the Brock guys.
Did you already mention that the ESPN thing?
No.
Yes.
So ESPN, so that was the other thing. People was like, oh, do you know what it must have been? ESPN requested that Brock Lesnar be on the show because they want WrestlePalooza to be a big thing.
It couldn't possibly be WWE.
It couldn't possibly be TKO.
Poor little WWE always being held over a barrel by these big bully companies like Saudi Arabia and ESPN and Disney.
Mum and pop store TKO, who are always just doing things for the fans.
Well, yeah, like, thank God, because I knew nothing about electromagnetic frequency damage. And we should probably, can I just say, this is So there is one match on WrestlePalooza that is sponsored by a thing that does anti-electromagnetic frequency stuff. From what I can tell, it's a piece of metal.
I think that they have rebranded the 5G argument.
Yes, yeah, I think that's exactly it. There's always, if you just stretch back to the birth of technology, everyone's always been afraid of something in the air, electric-wise.
Don't go near the microwave.
That will turn your kids gay. And that, like, you sort of get it. I think electromagnetic frequency is more at the sort of male end of the spectrum because it sounds technical, and then at the lady end of the spectrum it's typically crystals. They're the same amount of useless, right?
Yeah,
they're the same amount of useless. But WWE have done a partnership with a brand, so there's this beautiful press release that makes it sound like WWE is at the forefront of protecting their performers because one match on the WrestlePalooza card is sponsored by, I think it's called like Aries or something, and they will have anti-EMF technology around the ring.
So when I first saw this press release on Reddit this morning, I thought it was Austin Aries, and I was like,
I thought he had a
this adds up. Like, I'm gonna go. This really tracks with what Austin Aries has said over the years.
It was like the Extreme Man Federation. That's his new promotion. But if it's that important, WWE, use it for all the matches.
Why aren't all the matches?
Why aren't all the matches protected? Why aren't the people in the stands protected?
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, it's a sidebar with me on my pseudoscience soapbox.
But if I get a step back to the ESPN thing, so ESPN did this media call with journalists where they were, answering any questions about it, and that is where they confirmed that yes, we have not signed all of the deals with all of the network partners. Ergo, some people, around about 20 million of their subscribers already, will have to pay extra on top of ESPN in order to get WrestlePalooza. So essentially paying for ESPN twice in order to be able to watch WrestlePalooza. But they were like, they didn't really go further than that. They just said that it's going to be fixed before the end of the year. And Awful Announcing, who did the write-up with us, I think the one was asked the question as well, have said that it's probably going to be sooner than that because their deals with Google and Comcast are up next month. So they'll probably redo those deals then. So that should be fixed before long. But anyway, within this, John Alba asked ESPN about Brock Lesnar and how do you feel about having Brock Lesnar appear on your show whilst he is named in an ongoing and active lawsuit against Vince McMahon and WWE where he's accused of really awful things, allegations, etc. And ESPN just like, well, WWE have got full creative control on their storylines and their talent. It's nothing to do with us. And then when Alba prompted them a little bit more, they did say that they have never requested talent appear on a show. So anyone that is appearing on WrestlePalooza is, according to, those good, honest folks at Disney, it's nothing to do with them. It is all WWE. And according to the good folks at WWE, it's all John Cena's fault.
John Cena had us over a barrel. He wants to face Logan Paul.
We didn't want to do it.
He fired our truth. We didn't know what he was doing. He's gone power mad in this last year.
But thankfully, we brought him back and gave you the R-Truth that you really wanted.
Eventually.
Super serious R-Truth for a week.
Yeah. But so I am very skeptical of any big press conference usually. So I don't believe ESPN either. Maybe they didn't specifically say Brock Lesnar, but they probably went, this needs to be a big show.
Yeah, we need to load this with your biggest draws and your biggest stars.
And WWE are like, so you mean and ESPN are like, we're not saying anyone specifically, but the biggest names available.
Yeah,
we would very much like for this launch flagship event.
A beast-sized name is what we sort of need from here. I'm not saying anyone specifically, or even alluding to anyone specifically.
So you can see how a conversation would have gone where, and they're both like, yeah, but if John Alba asks us, like, we'll take the heat, all right? Yeah, we know what's up. But because to be honest, we don't care. We don't care. and we want to just try and get the most people to pay for ESPN twice.
So do we now want to use this to go into the new phrase that is sort of taking the world by storm? And as I say taking the world by storm, I've heard it for the past week.
Yeah, so Ollie,
it's like this. It's the penta of terminology at the moment.
Well, and this is mainly me saying it to you, and anyone who will listen to
and
me.
then I did see a YouTube video about it as well. I haven't actually watched it yet, but it is in my to-watch list.
I think you probably heard it before. Most people have. It's that I think it's called the reticular activating device. It's the
now what the WWE protects against.
It's the phenomenon where you learn a word, and then all of a sudden you spot that word everywhere. And the logical fallacy is thinking, oh, everyone's just suddenly started using the word, rather than it's you. Everyone's always been using this word. So the enshittification is the word. Yeah. It's been around for about 2 years, I think. And it's just describing a specific online platform business model that most entertainment has morphed into. It's a 3-phase thing where first, consumers are given a great product for a very low price. Mm-hmm. Phase 2 is slowly hike the prices and make the product worse by bringing on business partners. So you could call it like sponsors. That's where sponsorship starts to come in. Or maybe ads come in to a thing you were paying, and I thought I was paying for no ads. Yeah, I thought it was like an HBO cable thing. And then phase 3 is also screwing over those ads and business partners and just extracting money for shareholders. And that's sort of that you can that 3-phase process, I think you can probably put at the door of most online streaming platforms, but really our area of expertise is WWE, and it describes it to a T.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's what it kind of, we were talking about the Brock thing there. When we were sort of having that joke conversation about ESPN and WWE being like, we're not saying, they don't care. They probably just said outright, oh yeah, we could bring Brock Lesnar back. And they were like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, well, like Medium Impact will lose 5% of people, but like that's, like we can absorb that, and most other people will pay more, and most people don't care. Yeah, I bet that is really what the conversation was.
Yeah, most people won't care. And because most people won't care, you can just do these sorts of things and, to put it bluntly, get away with it, because it won't impact your business whatsoever. We said at the start of this will only affect WWE if sponsors pull out. And this is not Snickers being angry at the Fabulous Moolah Battle Royal, which really they were only angry about because fans were complaining to Snickers. Fans aren't going to the Cone Zone. They're not going to Aries, Austin or otherwise, to say that this is a bad thing. People just don't care anymore. They feel like they've just sort of given up. And so because of that, you can just do these sorts of things and it doesn't matter at all.
And they keep paying the high ticket prices, the subscription package prices, for an increasingly worse service. Me and Dan spoke about this on last week's episode in the wake of the Saudi Arabia news. Like, that is a real move away from what is best for the fan base and more that's best for WWE and its shareholders. Because, the money there is enormous.
Huge.
There will come a point where WWE reaches its ceiling in what it can charge and extract from the loyal fan base.
Not according to Mark Shapiro.
Well, just get rid of all the kids. You just need adults with disposable income.
Why do you need a future audience? We've got one right now that will give us money. Short-term goals. That's the key to business success.
So, and to WWE's credit, and most like sports things and certainly concerts, we constantly moan about it in the office. These prices keep going up, and people keep paying for them.
Bingo.
Us included. And some businesses are going to keep hoisting this. Even people you're like, oh, but they wouldn't do that. Radiohead did it.
I was going to say...
Radiohead did it to me last week.
We can talk about Radiohead. Now, finally, here on the podcast, we are... 24 minutes in, we can finally talk about Radiohead.
Tickets from 85 quid, Tom York. Well, I guess if I'm sitting at the back of the arena, I should be paying 85 quid. No, I'm paying £162.50.
Yeah, because of dynamic pricing.
Yeah, right at the back of the arena.
You can touch the back of the wall. Because I was going to go with you, and you told me that price, and you very kindly just said, you're not beholden to this ticket. Even though you said you can come, you're now not beholden to this ticket. And I was like, I just cannot justify spending 160 quid to watch Radiohead, especially not knowing if they're going to just play stuff from Kid A onwards. Because really what I want them to do is just do Pablo Honey, The Bends, and OK Computer, and that is it.
There's 2 good songs on Pablo Honey.
And I want those 2 good songs. Really what I want them to do is play The Bends from start to finish.
Well, thanks for thinking it was humble, but I can flip that ticket for 4 times its worth now, thanks to the people who missed out because of dynamic pricing and have FOMO.
But my wife and I were talking about this on the weekend because I said, like, I had to be a sensible bitch, which is a term that my wife and I use when we're trying to be, like, sensible people. It's like, we're going to be a sensible bitches about these things. I had to be a sensible bitch there and be like, I can't spend 160 quid to go see Radiohead, but I really wanted to. And my wife was like, but people are going to pay that money. And when people do continue to pay that money, like, I subscribe to Spotify, even though I do think the service has gotten worse over the years. So there's a bit of functionality in Spotify. Sorry if I just made a little rag for a second. If you've got your queue, you can delete songs from your queue to be like, I don't want that. It just puts it back in. I asked it this morning. It was like, business time by Fly the Conchords. And I was like, I'm not really in the mood to listen to that song. I'll just remove that from the queue. And then I went to go see what other song. It was back there again. I'll just delete that. It's there. And then it just played. And I was like, I've told you 3 times now I don't want to listen to this song. Because it's made the platform worse because they've clearly made some changes and stuff. Anyway, so people are going to keep paying this. People are going to keep paying. Mark Shapiro is completely right when he's like, we can keep raising ticket prices because people are paying for them. Yeah, people are going to keep paying for them.
And when the thing is, for how long? And we actually did a podcast about 3 months ago talking about this kind of thing. Like, I don't know how much longer WWE have got at this very big peak. And Meltzer was actually saying on Wrestling Observer Radio this week or last week, the boom period by metrics is now over. We have had the peak of the boom period. WrestleMania 40 was really the crux of that. And it is kind of sad. We said it at the time, like, we are living through a wrestling boom. This is so fun. But really, you don't feel it. Like, it's only when the boom is starting to pass, you're like, oh, man, that was really a boom.
Yeah.
And it was really great.
It's like talking to your wrestling fans in 2002. Do you remember how good 2 years ago was?
But all the things like shows aren't selling out so fast, that there's not so many consecutive sellouts. Remember when Raw would promote that? And I just think with the increasing ticket prices and, let's be honest, a not as good product. Like, compare the build to WrestleMania 40 to this year and the rest of the year. It's not even close.
No.
In terms of WWE. And Brock Lesnar being back, like, the creative, at the end of the day, the creative for Brock Lesnar, what is it? He's come back and he's going to face John Cena. Is he a really bad guy? No, because he had a comedy segment with R-Truth last Friday on SmackDown and his jeans ripped.
Yeah, John Cena has cut one promo where he's like, I may be afraid of Brock Lesnar, but I will fight Brock Lesnar. And that's it. That's the build for this show. And
there should be a great story there. And maybe to WWE's defense, they have somewhat told it in the sort of documentary career rivalry thing that part 2 is on SmackDown tonight. And that was good. But I just don't, like, where's the story here of, yeah, but Brock is. You might have had more famous foes, Punk, Orton, but Brock is your most dangerous foe.
Yeah.
And he's coming to beat you on your retirement tour. Like, I've not had that. I've just had Brock appear and rip his jeans.
Yeah, he's added nothing, which again brings us back to the start of this. What is the point of Brock Lesnar? And I really do fully, truly believe, lawsuit aside, I think you push the lawsuit to one, push it off the table, because that's not really the discussion I'm having here. I think he adds nothing to the show. I think Brock Lesnar versus John Cena adds nothing to WrestlePalooza. I think Brock Lesnar versus John Cena adds nothing to Cena's retirement year. I think it adds diddly squat to the product.
Yes, I appreciate the irony of us complaining about rising ticket prices and everything, and then plugging our patreon.com/WrestleTalk. But the truth is, we only raise prices once in 7 years. So we're actually okay, I'd say. But let's say a big thank you to our wonderful pledge hammers on Patreon. Manipulating Manu Umaria.
The needs of the Manny Connish outweigh the needs of the few.
Better than you, and you know it, Max.
Kurt Wallander Wallen.
The Batsman, Nathan Batty.
Probably better than Kyle, Philip O'Reilly.
The man who wears the gold, the man time recognized by Swaft Nation International as the 24/7 champion, our legend.
Daylight Robbery, Rob James.
Ross Pooper Scooper Cooper.
Rue the Day, Rari O'Brien Kelly.
The man with the scoops, Sean.
And the big boss man, Security, James. I'm wearing my boss man t-shirt today.
Yeah, it's very handsome. Please go over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk. You can get your own shout out with a wrestling nickname on the WrestleTalk podcast. And also, excitedly this week, it's the start of Monday Night War.
Yeah,
Monday Night War 2000.
2000. It's a brand new series of the Monday Night War. It's me versus Ollie versus a returning Dan Layton looking to regain his crown that he never really lost in the first place. And so it's a three-way war. And for this series, we have done the very fun, silly gimmick of it's kind of... We've put a bunch of 2000s guys, a bunch of Attitude Era guys available to be drafted, and we're only exclusively listening to songs from 1997 through 2001, which has led to, it's episode 3, which I was watching the other day, so that's out in a couple of weeks' time, has got probably my favourite moment of the show so far, which is when you get Chumbawamba's name slightly mixed up with the name of the song itself.
Yes. Which is Tub Thumping?
Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba.
By Chumbawamba.
Why didn't you tell me the show was 3 hours long?
I'm sorry. I kind of forgot. And maybe just in my deepest bit, didn't want to acknowledge that it was going to be 3 hours.
Because I got up this morning at 5:30, because it's Thursday the days I do the nursery run with the kid. And I was like, I'm going to get up at 5:30 because that means I can watch the show with plenty of time and I can get all my news stories and stuff before I head off to the station to start writing my script. And then it started. It was like, it's a 3-hour event. I was like, oh no, I'm going to be really pushed for time now to get all of this in before I have to take the kid to nursery. I was actually watching some of this while the kid was watching Bluey.
It's a September to remember, though.
And it really was also, and I did remember it was a very good go-home show, a very solid go-home show.
You know, we talk a lot about go-home shows on go-home PLE or pay-per-view weeks, and we often say that was a bad go-home show, or there was nothing about that show. And it's like, sometimes I feel like people might think we're saying there wasn't a big soap opera dramatic cliffhanger final, right? This show did not have the big, oh my God, I've got to see what happens next moment. But what it did have is exactly what a go-home show should do. Every single segment, whether it be a match, whether it be a little video promo, whether it be an in-ring bit, they all effectively built to All Out.
Yeah, and I would push back. I think it closed with an angle that sets up a big thing for the world title match.
Yeah, it had but that was just a normal weak angle.
Not really. It's the same move that he did to take out Kenny Omega and put him on the injured shelf.
Yeah, like that could have happened at any week of TV.
That I agree. It's not like, whoa, a big mind-blowing angle, but they did do a big angle to lead into the pay-per-view.
It's not the equivalent of Kenny Omega running back and getting his revenge on Fletcher. Is Omega going to be in Hangman's corner? That's what I mean by a big angle.
We did open with Hangman Page and Carl Fletcher with a contract signing where Page has now got an addition to this contract, which is if a member of the Don Callis family interferes, or Don Callis interferes, or Kyle Fletcher gets DQ'd, not only will he not win the World Heavyweight Championship, he will be stripped of his TNT Championship. Now, I think if you just say those words there, that kind of sound like a cowardly babyface thing to do of like, I'm going to stop you from doing interference because I'm afraid of you doing interference and I lose my title. But it's actually so true to Hangman Page's character. The reason why he has put this stipulation in is because he believes that Kyle Fletcher is the future of AEW. And if he's as good as he claims he is, then he should be able to beat Page, stand up on his own 2 feet and fight on your own to beat me for this title. Because if you do, then you're exactly as good as you say you are. But you need to be able to prove that, and I don't want you to disappoint me.
Yeah, exactly. Hangman believes in AEW. It's where the best wrestle. If you beat me for this championship, it has to be because you're the better wrestler, not because you had someone help out. They did mention Kenny in this, where Don said, I've wanted that belt back from you since you beat Kenny, but now I've got an even better person in Carl Fletcher. It made me think that Kenny might come back because the stipulation that no Don Callis affiliated people can interfere makes me think, oh, we'll just get a hired gun. And that hired gun will show up. Death Riders, Gabe Kidd, who knows?
It'd be like they fire someone from the group on the Go Home show. They fire the big boss man from the corporation.
Yeah, but no one knows that for sure. And that could facilitate Kenny making his running return, stopping that person interfering. Carl's like, oh no. And that's why Carl loses on the night.
Actually, then there's a really nice story you could do of Kenny almost helps Hangman win. And for Hangman then, he's like, well, that's not how I want to do things. Like, I don't want your help in order to do this, because eventually we do want to build to Kenny versus Hangman for the title. And that could be a route for us to get there, of like, to create some of this animosity between the two of us. Like, I appreciate the help, but I don't need your help and I don't want your help either.
I like that a lot. I said last week, by the way, that the Hangman saying don't let any of the Don Callis family get involved is all well and good. It needs to be built into the stipulation. So I thought this was a really good next step.
I thought about that because I did listen to last week's podcast. I listened to the product. We got a video promo for Darby versus Moxley, and then Moxley took on Roderick Strong, which I thought was a very good little match. This
all of the matches on this show were terrific. Like not blow away party match. Oh, this is my favorite match of the week. They were just all excellent TV matches for what they were.
Yeah, and it was like when like Roderick Strong came out to face John Moxley, I was like, that feels like a cool, new, fresh like matchup that we haven't had for a while. And also there's an inbuilt story there, which is the Paragon had that relationship with Daniel Garcia and now kind of annoyed Daniel Garcia for siding with the Death Riders. There was also a fun spot in here where you had Roderick Strong face off with Marina Shafir, and the crowd, obviously, they know that they are married IRL. So they reacted to it. And then Taz goes like, I thought Roddy was almost infatuated with Marina there. Yeah. They never acknowledged on commentary that they're married because in kayfabe, it would create a lot of questions.
I think that was in the ad break, so I don't know if everyone saw that, but we would have heard it on the fight feed. What do you think of Danielson on commentary, eh?
Oh, he's great.
He's so good. And this kind of match as well is perfect for him.
I thought he was having the time of his life when Mascara Dorada had a match with the Beast Mortars.
Yeah, really like this lineup. Taz and Danielson seem to offer a very similar thing. So I don't know how maybe Taz does need to go a bit more heelish in comedy to balance out.
Sort of does, and like he likes he's more supportive of the Don Callis family than anyone else is, which is kind of funny as well because he hates Don Callis as much as anyone else does. But he also appreciates what it is. Like, I understand it from a business aspect why you would do this. I think that the differences they have is that Taz is from a very different era of wrestling, whereas Danielson only retired last year. So that's maybe where you can lean in a little bit more into the analysis side of things.
Well, that makes me sort of value Brian's insight more, you see. That's why I think Taz... But I don't know, because I really did enjoy them all. I just think maybe long-term Taz might need to differentiate himself from what Danielson is bringing.
Yeah.
Because there was no crossover between Shivani and Taz.
Not at all. But yeah, Yuta appeared from nowhere to give Mox the assist in getting the win. Really enjoyed that. We got a video for MJF versus Mark Briscoe, which is happening at the pay-per-view in a tax and tables match.
Yep. Yeah, it's a
hat on a hat.
Yeah.
And then MJF at Collision went to go see Tony Khan. He was like behind a closed door. And Max was very happy about this. And it's like, I want you to remove this match from the card. And Tony Khan was like, after everything you've done to AEW, after you disrespected the AEW World title and you disrespect the... No, you are going to have this match. And he stood his ground. And MJF said that this weekend there'll be another Briscoe in the grounds.
I like this. I even like Tony Khan's performance. I think it helps when you can't see him because... He wouldn't blink or whatever, but from
talk about parking lots.
Just the audio I thought was very effective.
Toa Leona took on Bobby Lashley, and boy howdy were this audience there to see the Hurt Syndicate hurt people.
And that's the unfortunate thing about the Hurt Syndicate, because they're booked so strong, and you can definitely make the argument it works, because when they would when Bobby ran around the outside, hit that spear, and MVP gets involved with Ricochet, it was like, oh yeah, I'm here for this. This is awesome.
Yeah.
But the booking has come at the expense of a lot of other people on the roster, which I don't think is a good idea.
Yes, and they had a brawl afterwards. Obviously, Bobby Lashley won with the full Nelson, obviously. And then they stood tall in the brawl afterwards as well, and they'll likely win at the pay-per-view too, I'd imagine, unless Ricochet's going to pin MVP.
Oh, yeah, I'd be very surprised if they don't win. But they tried to protect Toleona. He looked great, I thought.
Great.
It's that Samoan drop on the ring apron right at the start of the match. And he passed out in the Hurt Lock. Even when he tried to fall back and get Bobby's shoulders on the mat for a pin, Bobby lifted his shoulder, made him pass out. So I thought it was a good finish, actually.
Really good finish. And I thought it was a very good match, elevated by a hot crowd. We had a face-to-face with FTR and CNC Music Factory. And because we were in Canada, great heat for FTR going up against the Canadians here, who also had a really good promo as well against Copeland. Nothing. It's not against Christian in all of this. It's all really against Copeland. And it's this idea that, we brought you back into wrestling. We helped you get back into wrestling. We helped you get a job here as well. But the second you got here, you just made it all about you. You made this the Cope show. And yeah, you were the best tag team, but that was 25 years ago. We've been the best tag team for 11 years, running down some of their classic rivalries and their classic matches, all the titles that they've won. We are the standard bearers for tag wrestling now. It's no longer you two.
They said Enzo and Cass in their list.
They did, yeah. And Gable and Jordan as well, listing people off. And yeah, then Cope was like, I didn't steal the spotlight. This crowd told you that they didn't want you in that spotlight. And yeah, you've been in this for 11 years. Try 25. All this sort of stuff. But it's pretty good stuff from Cope. But I thought FTR were the standouts in all this. And then I thought Christian was excellent. Because there's a great bit when he says, you don't match up to Cope and Christian. And Christian just grabs the mic and goes, Christian and Cope.
Which somehow didn't undermine the seriousness of the exchange.
Because it's Christian. Yeah. Also, because Christian's not doing it in like a dickish manner. He's just like, no, this is just who he is. Like, because it wasn't like it was like Christian and Cope.
Yeah.
And he just stands back and he's just got that look on his face. Even when he's doing classic Christian delivery, talking about Stokely getting no hose, it still feels like, I know you've got a father, Christian.
Yeah, and that's what's been really, really ingenious about how he's transitioned from the heel to the babyface. So I guess he's more of a tweener traditionally. But he got the final line, didn't he? There was fines if anyone got physical, $500,000 if anyone touched Stokely. And Christian says, yeah, but I'm rich. And they all just beat them up, and Dax was bleeding from his nose. He looked great.
Yeah, looked really, really awesome.
I put over Cash as well, because Cash doesn't usually get to cut promos, but he had the bulk of the FTR promo against Copeland. I thought it was excellent.
Renee interviewed the Bucks earlier in the day, and they the gimmick of the Bucks now is that they are spending their money like there's no tomorrow, because they won the $500,000 last week, and they're just spending it willy-nilly. So they've given the production guy a bunch of money to get their old music back and get a load of pyro and make their entrance feel special. They gave Renee Paquette $10,000 because they've been a bit mean to her recently.
It's USD, not that fake Canadian money as well.
They're going to the casinos and losing a lot of it. They're even carrying the money around with them. Then when they came to the ring, like they've got the money, they tried to pay Rick Knox during the match, and Rick Knox sort of threw the money away.
I think they gave there was a fan in the crowd who had a Young Bucks sign. I'm pretty sure they gave her shoot money because she looked really happy.
Yeah.
Which is kind of that thing Bret Hart used to do. He's not a heel to everyone. No, sorry, Kevin Nash. If you cheer me, I'll acknowledge you with a too sweet.
Yeah.
So I thought the Bucks have been just brilliant since the Founding Fathers thing has gone.
And dude, this match they had with the Bang Bang Gang, like we didn't have our traditional party match of the week, but we did have our Young Bucks match of the week, and boy howdy was this a really fun one. Bucks got an insane amount of pyro coming out as well. It was really funny. They're just so good. And actually, I thought Robinson and Gunn were great in this as well.
Yeah, I just can't look at Juice Robinson without a beard, all in black, and think, oh yeah, you're better than you were before.
Yeah. It does little for me.
Yeah. The Bucks, everyone looks great against the Bucks, but Juice does not look as good as he used to.
We had a promo for the Tailgate Brawl, which will be happening on the pre-show of All Out. And then we got the Beast Mortos versus Mascara Dorada, the third of 3 matches to qualify for the triple threat at All Out for the Unified Championship. I really thought it was going to be the Beast Mortos in all of this. And that's also because I thought Beast Mortos was in the Don Callis family.
It's Hechicero. I keep making that mistake too.
Beast Mortos is in LFI.
Yes,
it's just that LFI are never on television. So I was like, I'm pretty sure he's also in the Don Callis family. So that makes sense because then all three of the members of the team, of the team, are in this triple threat. But as I was watching, I was like, I really hope Dorado wins though, because he's awesome.
He was so good here. Mortos did a kick out at one. Right at the end after a top rope Hurricane Rana from Dorada, and then he hit a shooting star to win. It was a really great lucha match, fast paced, back and forth, loads of athletic moves.
And Danielson was having the time of his life on commentary. It's also very interesting as well because the crowd were quiet early because they were a bit spent from the Young Bucks match, but because this was so good, by the end of it, the crowd were like electric and they were super into it.
Oh, did you say that the Bucks match was a qualifier?
For the ladder match. Yeah. And afterwards, Okada with Don Callis came out, and then Konosuke Takeshita came out, obviously without Don Callis, and then he has to try and play peacemaker between them, and Dorado wiped out Okada. So I would imagine that Dorado has been put into this match so that they can pin someone.
Yeah.
Okada can pin someone that isn't Takeshita. Yeah. 1 hour and 45 minutes of the show, we got our first women's segment, and it was, I would say, a segment of two halves. Toni Storm came out for a promo, and it was really very good. And I really enjoyed Toni Storm's promo. Then Jamie Hayter walked into the spotlight and shared her microphone and gave a good promo. And then Chris Statlander came in from the other side and shared the spotlight and the same microphone and did an equally good promo. And I felt that visually it was all a bit too goofy for my taste.
It was definitely goofy. It worked for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so this was just on the stage.
I can never tell with you in Toni Storm segments.
It was just on this. Well, I think it's more because this, I thought one of the strengths of this show was the variety in which they did go home segments. All of the segments built the pay-per-view, but they did so with different ways and tones. And this looked like no other go home segment on the show. It was Toni Storm. It was thematically coherent with her being in the spotlight on the stage. And then, it's a very on the nose metaphor, but there are two other people trying to steal her spotlight. When Tekla comes out, that goofiness is not for her.
No,
she gets her proper entrance. She comes out, she scares them off, and she has a great hardcore match with Queen Aminata.
The second Tekla came out, this is where it elevated the segment for me because she understands the assignment. She's in a street fight. She's wearing jeans.
Yeah.
And she just looked like the badass of the three. I'm like, she's like, it's Chris Statlander and Jamie Hayter. And I'm like, no, she's the baddest of the badass lot of you. She looked awesome as she came down. And then had a match with Queen Aminata, which the story of their feud is they just stiff each other a lot and then have a wacky finish where one of them doesn't look like they really want to be beaten.
Yeah. I sign me up. I'm fine with this. The AEW does women's hardcore matches so well.
Yeah.
Because they're just as good as the guys.
The twisting neck breaker that Aminata did off it was almost like the Randy Orton RKO thing, but you did it off the top rope into the trash can was gnarly. The spear into the upturned chair was gnarly.
I thought Danielson had a really good line off of that. He said, look, sometimes when you hit your lower back like that on a chair, you can lose strength in your legs. And I thought, that's the sort of insight I want from you.
And there was a stomp by Tekla into a chair. Aminata still kicked out at 3, but that was the end of the match because that's how this feud has to go. And then Storm ran down to have another brawl with Tekla. And Jamie Hayter ran down, but Chris Statlander cut her off. Then Statlander was encouraged to walk away from the Triangle of Madness and not get involved in their brawl by Marina Shafir and Wheeler Yuta. Meanwhile, the Triangle of Madness were beating down Toni Storm. She managed to fight them off, and it came down to Storm and Hayter, but Hayter wouldn't pull the trigger in attacking Storm, which annoyed Storm. She's like, after everything we've been through, you've got to hit me. And so that Storm got really mad at her about that, and they had to be separated by security.
Yeah, a lot of notes you hit very well there, and they did so in... I thought this was great. Yeah, it was goofy, that opening bit of it, but it worked for me. I think this would hit way better, or harder in Hayter's case, if the story had properly been told for longer.
Yeah.
Feels like this is just rushed together because they didn't really know... They didn't really have a singles feud for Toni.
No, but I feel like this is there is the story to tell, and I feel like this is the start of the story between Tony and Jamie to lead to the singles match.
Yeah.
We had Alicia interviewing Top Flight, with Hangman Page telling them to watch out for Don Callis family interference later on, which will set up the main event angle. Luchasaurus and Kip Sabian beat Jet Speed to qualify for the All Out ladder match.
Oh, other way round? Jet Speed won.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was going to say versus. Jet Speed beat Luchasaurus and Kip Sabian to qualify for the ladder match.
Yeah, because Kill Switch, it looks like he split up with Kip Sabian. He pushed Kip's legs off the ropes when he tried to cheat to win, and then he didn't tag in and walked off.
Yeah, I saw this at Forbidden Door. And then Big Bill cut a promo on Eddie Kingston, saying that Eddie Kingston's been sat on his couch for the last 16 months, and if you were such a tough guy, you'd be here right now. I don't even think you're going to be at All Out, but if you do show up, I'm going to expose you as the fraud that you are.
Oh, I can't wait for Eddie to come back. I hope he's good.
Me too, but I am sat here, much like Eddie Kingston for the last 6 months at home, asking, why does this not feel like a bigger deal that Eddie Kingston is coming back?
My concern is that he is still quite injured and they're not sure how he'll hold up.
So the report was that Eddie, what they didn't want to just do Eddie as a surprise return, they wanted to promote him for a pay-per-view and make that the big debut. The big return is that people then have to pay for the pay-per-view to see the return of Eddie Kingston, which I totally understand as an argument. But also I'm just a little bit like, I've been waiting so long for Eddie to come back, and it is against, nothing against Big Bill, but he is not pushed on TV as a top character. So I don't know, this doesn't feel like a big deal for Eddie coming back.
It should be Gabe Kidd. Like, there's an inbuilt story there.
Yeah. Danielson had a sit-down interview with Darby Allin about his climb onto Mount Everest, and then Darby said, I want your word, Brian, that you won't get involved in the match because you will be sat at ringside. I know you've got a lot of heat with Jon Moxley. And Brian agrees, but he wants something in return to him. And like the end of Lost in Translation, he whispers into his ear, and we're not supposed to know what was said.
He lost in translation, Dim. That's exactly what I thought. Yeah, what do you think it is? What's the little message?
Skateboards.
Skateboard him in the dick.
Yeah.
I think this is just more of a reflection on me being a bit of a cynical, jaded bastard. I get it. You climbed Everest. Do you get that? It's so impressive. Genuinely, it's so impressive you did that. And I love that you flew the AEW flag. Yeah. That's great. But that was last year, man.
You said that was sort of like people who are resharing photos from their holiday 2 months ago. It's like, I get it. You went on to a nice holiday.
And the thing is,
you're back at work now.
They should absolutely say he climbed Everest and literally flew the flag for AEW up there. That's amazing. Yeah. But there's something wrong with me where I'm now like, just move on, mate. I don't It's a me issue. It's not a them issue.
Riho took on Robin Renegade in a short match. The Riho won. And at the end of this, Robin Renegade held onto Riho's foot as she was staring down Mercedes Moné, and that led to Moné getting in the ring and hitting the backstabber to stand tall over Riho.
Yeah, you can sign Robin Renegade in my GM. It's that sort of name.
So the Fightful Slate report is like for ages now, for like over a year, Mercedes Moné has been pushing to have a team with the Renegade Twins. So like that's her backup. And she's been pitching it for over a year, and they've been like, yeah, maybe not. And they've sort of like, it nearly happened, then it didn't happen. But now apparently a couple of months ago, the Renegade Twins got gear that was designed to look like Mercedes gear. So there's every chance that it is going to happen. And, you know, with Mercedes' massive level of creative control, she asked for a team, and a year and a half later, she's going to get it.
Yeah, Tony, what a mark.
That is what creative control gets you guys. Were you excited? I was that Jerry Lynn is getting the Acclaimed back together.
Yeah, really excited. I don't care that Max Caster and Bowens have sort of just hit dead ends, but Jerry Lynn was on screen.
Jerry Lynn was there, and Jerry Lynn took his t-shirt off, and he was fighting. I was like, it's Jerry Lynn! Show some respect, Chris Sabin. It's Jerry Lynn. And the main event was Josh Alexander and Hechicero taking on Top Flight for the final spot in the four-way ladder match. Crowd weren't super into this, but A, given the four guys that are in the ring who aren't like main event caliber guys, and also B, it was the end of a 3-hour show. Fairly understandable. The Don Callis family got the win.
I thought it would have made more sense to finish with the Bucks and Jet Speed. Nope, that wasn't the match.
Bucks and But the Gun Club. Bang Bang Gang.
Was that a qualifier?
It was a qualifier.
Yeah.
But
Maybe not then.
The reason why you do this one here is so you can have the Hangman Page bit at the end.
Yeah, I was trying to find a way to work the Hangman Page save-in, but you're right, you couldn't do it there.
Yeah, because I was looking at this lineup, I was like, what is going to be the main event of this show? And it was this. I was like, all right, okay. Then you had the backstage segment where Page went up to Top Flight and Christopher Daniels in particular. I was like, okay, well, that sets us up for the end then. Because everyone came out for a schmoz, including all the ladder teams. Bro Dido also ran down as well. And it was the Callis family surrounding Christopher Daniels. He does respect Jerry Lynn. And then Hangman came out for the save. He beat up the Don Callis family. Carl Fletcher tried to sneak attack in, but Page caught him. But Fletcher, I think, awesomely just went for it anyway. Just got up and just bastard Hangman Page. He was like, I can do this on mine. I don't need to sneak attack you to beat you up. And he gave him the brainbuster off the apron and through a table.
Which was the same injury angle for Kenny. And he posed with both belts.
Yeah. Great. I thought it was a very good closing go-home angle to what I thought was a really good go-home show. Should we do then our AEW All Out predictions?
Yes. Remember to subscribe, of course, wherever you're consuming this, because we will have our All Out review along with WrestlePalooza on Sunday.
Absolutely, yeah. So we've got 13 matches here on the card, 3 of which are on the pre-show.
Yeah.
You know both these shows are going to be 4 hours, right?
Minimum.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
8 hours of wrestling we've got to consume
on
Sunday morning.
I'm prepped for 10 hours of wrestling.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you reckon eight around 4.5, I suppose.
I think with a pre-show.
With the pre-show, it's 5 for sure.
All in was 7 hours with the pre-show.
Yeah, with the pre-show. I wasn't including the pre-show on there.
Well, I do.
I think if you just do main cards, both shows, I think it's 4 hours each. Maybe 4.5 for All Out. We've got Harley Cameron, Mina Shirakawa, Queen Amanada, and Willow Nightingale taking on Megan Bayne, Penelope Ford, and 2/3 of the Triangle of Madness in the Tailgate Brawl.
Yeah, this will be fun. I enjoyed the little video package. It doesn't really matter who wins. So who can best take the pin? Penelope Ford. So the Mina Shirakawa team will win.
Yeah, I think Megan Bayne's team won at Forbidden Door in this sort of style of match, so 50-50, we'll flip it around. I did think that Julia Hart and Sky Blue doing their promo where they said all the words at the same time was lame.
I thought it was creepy cool.
No, I thought it was lame. And I really like Julia Hart and Sky Blue, but I thought that was lame. Daniel Garcia's taking on Katsuyori Shibata.
It's got to be Garcia, right? Just turned heel.
I think so.
And he's on the up.
The Ops are taking on the Workhorsemen.
Yeah, weird match this. I saw someone fantasy book the idea that the Callis family could also go for the trios titles. Build All Out around. Callis family members are going for every single belt, really.
Yeah, it's nice.
Kind of. Yeah. They are, aren't they? If that was the case. Because you got Takeshita.
Yep.
You've got Fletcher.
There's just no one in the... Because obviously Carter already is the champion, so technically Takeshita...
Alexander's in the tag match with Hechicero. But yeah, with this one, the Ops will obviously win.
Yeah,
but it'll be a good match because the Workhorsemen are workhorses.
Got Cope and Christian taking on FTR. I think it's CNC Music Factory.
Yeah, it's CNC. It's in Canada. Their hometown.
Win.
Yeah, they should win. Probably setting them up for a tag title match.
This will likely be the match because the story of Cope and Christian's comeback is that they're not doing this to reunite the team. Cope reunited with Christian to help him take out his sons, and Christian's reunited with Cope to help him take out FTR. So once they vanquish both of those teams, there has to be that moment where they kind of look at each other and be like, maybe this is working.
Yeah.
So you can do that. I think there is an argument to be made, though, that FTR win for that Canada heat.
Yep, and it's Cope. So, or usually with Cope, he wins the first one, then he is beaten up and takes 4 months off, and then he wins the second one. So we could also get that. But I think these two... I think Cope and Christian probably want to put FTR over. Because they're very close personal friends. I think they could put FTR over here, but then they win the rematch and maybe the rubber match, so you get a proper 3-match series with increasingly more severe steps, and that's what sets Cope and Christian up to go against the Bucks, and that might be their retirement run.
I think you could do the last match being a TLC match as well.
Yeah.
The match that Edge and Christian invented, or certainly credited as inventing.
Bucks, FTR, and CNC. Because by that point, when they're in the Bucks feud, you could get how the Revival used to be with DIY against Authors of Pain. Like they would actually help each other out.
Is that going to be a spoiler for your ladder match prediction then? We could do the ladder match now. It's Bro Dido taking on the Young Bucks, taking on Jet Speed and the Don Callis family in a 4-way ladder match for the World Tag Titles.
Bro Dido have been great, but I don't really see them as a tag act. The Young Bucks really should get the belts here. They've been the best act on TV, and really the tag division never feels important without them as champions.
I'm going with Bro Dido to retain here.
You're probably right.
Because I think the story with the Young Bucks, you've still got a story to tell with the Young Bucks, which is them spending all of the money. And I think that is probably weirdly bigger than them being the World Tag Champions.
Nope, nobodyism. Not for AW's health. You need the best tag team as the tag team champions.
We got them in Bro Dido.
Nope, that's not true. The Bucks are I love Bro Dido. The Bucks are so much better. By the way, so what are you saying for Cope and Christian?
Oh, Cope. I'm going to go with Cope and Christian. It's in Canada. I think it makes too much sense for them not to win. Sorry, for them to win. I think it makes too much sense for them to what am I saying here? It makes sense for them to win in Canada.
I'm going to say FTR, though.
I really want to say FTR, but I think, and I can totally see because you get the Canada heat. Hurt Syndicate are taking on Ricochet and the Gates of Agony.
3, 2, 1.
Hurt Syndicate. We've got Mercedes Moné taking on Riho for the TBS Championship.
3, 2, 1. Mercedes Moné.
We got Darby Allin taking on John Moxley in a coffin match.
Surely Darby's got to win this. This is the payoff to really a year-long storyline, but actually a couple of months of intense building with Darby chasing the Death Riders around. It's a coffin match that feels like
it's his
Darby's body bag.
Yeah. I'm going with Mox. I think there's more match to be built here.
Yeah, it's difficult. Maybe you do have
beating him in his own stipulation.
Maybe you do have the second match at Wrestle Dream, which is that where Danielson was taken out?
So here's my pitch: I think there is a lot of wheelie utiness in this match and interference. The match you do at Wrestle Dream is Mox and Yuta versus Darby and Danielson.
Damn, that's a good idea. In that case, I'm gonna say Moxley as well.
Mark Briscoe takes on MJF in a tables and thumbtacks match.
MJF. Yeah.
He's got the big match with Mystico. Timeless Tony Storm defends against Jamie Hayter, Chris Statlander, and Tekla.
I think this will be a lot of fun. But obviously it's set up for a Tony Storm retention.
Me too. I think the end goal here, likely for Full Gear, is going to be Storm versus Hayter in a singles match. Maybe even for Wrestle Dream. We've got we'll do that in a bit, actually. Okada versus Takeshita versus Mascara Dorada for the Unified Championship.
Okada pins Dorada.
Sure does.
To set up a Takeshita Okada match, finally.
Likely a Wrestle Dream. And we've got Big Bill versus Eddie Kingston.
It's got to be Eddie.
Surely
winning his
Eddie.
Return, yeah.
Surely it has to be Eddie. And that takes us to the main event, which was for the AEW World Championship as Hangman Adam Page takes on Kyle Fletcher.
I don't think anyone thinks Fletcher's going to win, me included. He should not win either.
Nope.
This is the start of getting over Fletcher to be the big main eventer in 2 years' time. It's got to be Hangman, but I think it's going to be an extraordinary match, and I think Fletcher's going to look incredible coming out of it.
My hope is, because the idea they're trying to emulate here is All Out 2019, where Hangman Page wasn't quite ready to be the world champion, and then they took the 2-year story to him winning the world title. I'm hoping that's what they're going to do here. I hope that Fletcher has a better first few months out of this than Hangman did after he lost to Jericho at All Out, because the story of Hangman Page not being ready All Out 2019 was evident in the match when he was just not ready at All Out 2019 to be the world champion. And it did take him 2 years to kind of get to, I was like, yeah, now put the belt on him. I'm hoping Fletcher is going to have a much better outcome coming out of the match. Fletcher
feels more fully formed and confident.
Yeah.
Than Hangman did in 2019.
Agreed. I'm looking forward to the show, though. I think it's a stacked card. I'm stoked for the show. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Same here, yeah.
Right, so we go through your comments then and recommendations.
These are comments from last week's episode where Dan and I spoke about the Saudi Arabia in No, that's the wrong way round. Saudi Arabia isn't being hosted in WrestleMania.
Have you heard that? So WrestleCon have said they're probably not going to be doing a at their WrestleCon events over WrestleMania weekend in Saudi Arabia. But unsurprisingly, Brett Lauderdale and GCW have had some offers out in Saudi Arabia to do some shows out there for WrestleMania weekend.
I don't know if their product translates.
Well, no, I'm just saying a WWE-friendly promotion is being given some opportunities to do some shows out there.
And arguably quite a carny promotion. So there's that as well.
Because Effie said, well, I'm not.
Yes.
I'm not going out there, and I won't be doing things. But Brett Lauderdale seems to be quite happy to go out there and do that.
Well, Galaxy XC. Execute says, let's be honest, Saudi Arabia getting a WrestleMania was always a matter of when and not if, the moment that WWE started working with them.
100% agree.
And that's why no one was surprised. It was just depressing.
Yeah.
What was it? Because you I
wasn't here.
You weren't here. What was your immediate reaction?
Unsurprised was my. That's it. Danny was like, oh yeah, well, that makes sense. I think you and Dan said this on the podcast. It was like the second that they announced they were going to be doing a partnership with them, it was like, well, they'll do WrestleMania there at some point. They get paid so much money to do those shows. I think I was surprised at the online backlash that it got. Like the video announcement had like thousands, like 30,000 thumbs up to 5,000 30,000 thumbs down to 5,000 thumbs up. I'm surprised when like you looked at the comments, people like, you sold out, like, to who? Like, they sold out to everyone. Like, this is what they do.
Again, going back to the conversation earlier, I don't think the Saudi Arabian politics really influences people's watching behavior on a mainstream level, but I can't go to WrestleMania. The WrestleMania show might not be as hot because you've not got that big international crowd. Those are the sorts of things I genuinely think will turn people off the product.
Not when they do WrestleMania in the summer.
What, the WrestleMania 2?
WrestleMania 2. They just do another WrestleMania.
It's called WrestlePalooza now.
This is from movie fan Z89, who says, WWE and specifically TKO do not care about fans. WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia before passionate fans in Europe, even though John Cena told me that we were going to have one. Raising ticket prices even more. ESPN deal. WrestlePalooza card does not look $30 worth to me. It's a good point, actually, because, we talked about it earlier. For some people, you've got to pay double the price to watch WrestlePalooza. So that's $60 for 5 matches.
Or if you do, you don't have any of it, you've still got to pay $30 to watch it as a minimum.
Yeah.
Again, pay-per-views used to be this much money. AEW pay-per-views are more money than this.
Yeah, but you get way more matches.
It's the inshitification where WWE got with the drug dealer at the school gates giving you the free or cheap samples to get you hooked.
And PowerPackers90 says, this people is why tribalism is stupid and we need places like AEW, because imagine a 100% fully unchecked monopolized TKO WWE right now. It's a really good point, actually.
Yeah, if you didn't have the competition of AEW, this would just be wrestling, and it would be really, really quite monotonous. Any recommendations?
I do, actually. Let me just quickly double check the author's name before I should have actually written this down.
Or shall I give you mine?
Yes, please, yeah.
So you're a big elevated horror fan. And this isn't one of those like rubbish horrors?
Just so to clarify, I don't hate elevated horror. I hate the term elevated horror because it is a made up term. It is the graphic novel of movie genre made up things, which is graphic novel is a term made up by journalists who wanted to say that they liked a comic book in Watchmen, but didn't want to say they liked a comic book. Elevated horror is a term made up by movie critics who don't want to say they liked a horror movie, but they did like the horror movie Hereditary. So they made up the term elevated horror.
I disagree. On the graphic novel point, I think it was a marketing thing, but it does describe a limited issue run more effectively than comics, which were typically ongoing. So Watchmen was a 12-issue graphic novel eventually.
It's a comic book.
Yeah, it's a comic book, but in the form of a graphic novel.
What the writer of Watchmen called it? A
graphic novel.
A comic book, yeah.
Graphic novel.
Alan Moore said,
anyway,
it's a comic book.
It's weapons. I saw weapons on Sunday night, and genuinely, I had nightmares. I can't remember the last time I had nightmares off a horror movie. And it's just, I can't do gore. It's not, there's bits of gore. But it was the perfect level of horror for me because it's both elevated. But it was
how every horror movie is elevated at this point.
It was scary, but I wanted to find out what happened. It was that proper, I'm going to open the door, but I'm not sure I'll like what's behind it. I thought it was really good. At some points, you forget, and I'm not actually saying this in an antagonistic way, you forget you're watching a horror movie, because it's told in kind of Pulp Fiction style. Here's this person's story, here's this person's story. And two of those stories are more of just a crime drama with a bit of comedy in. There's none of the horror elements. So you forget about the more supernatural side of this, and then boom, all of a sudden it's back. So really effectively structured. I loved it.
Well, obviously, I've actually got quite a few recommendations because obviously I wasn't here. The first is, of course, Limp Bizkit released a new track. Which I do have to double check what the name of it is, because
that's how good it was.
Well, it's because it's a wacky old name. It is Making Love to Morgan Wallen is the name of the new Limp Bizkit track. It is the Limp Bizkit track that I think we were all expecting them to make when they first got back together. And they released Dad Vibes instead, which while I very much enjoyed, I was like, this is not what I was expecting from Limp Bizkit. This track is what I was expecting from a Limp Bizkit comeback.
Who's Morgan Wallen?
Blues Clue. But it's a really good track. If you like Limp Bizkit. If you don't, then you're going to think it sounds like every Limp Bizkit song in the world. That's kind of why I like it. But my actual recommendation is a book that I read on holiday, which is by Alan Siegel, and it's called Stupid TV, Be More Funny: How the Golden Era of The Simpsons Changed Television and America Forever. The general thesis of the book is less about it being a making of The Simpsons and the golden era of The Simpsons. It really is more about that. It's about the impact Simpsons had on America and sort of pop culture at large. Because, it really came in the 1990s, well, first episode's 89, but really the 1990s, when TV is moving out of the 80s, but isn't quite sure what this new decade looks like. And The Simpsons more or less became the blueprint of what TV in the 90s looked like. It's kind of fascinating. There's a chapter where they went up against Bill Cosby. They literally took it to you didn't go against the Cosby Show.
Like a Monday Night War kind of thing.
Like a Monday Night War thing. Cosby Show had his slot. No one put anything against Cosby because he dominated the ratings. And the Simpsons were like, we're going to do it. And actually, the people who made the Simpsons were like, we think this is a stupid idea. But Fox, at this point, were not a big network. But they were like, this will actually create some clout. Because if we can not just lose, but do well. And in the end, actually end up beating the Cosby a couple of times as well, because they became this huge juggernaut.
For 83 weeks.
The presidents at the time, with George, the first George Bush, talked about the Simpsons being like, we need more people to be like the Waltons rather than the Simpsons. So there's a lot of that stuff, Bart Mania and that stuff. But really, while that is the central thesis, it is also a production history of The Simpsons and the golden era of The Simpsons. Yeah. And, there's a lot of stuff with Jeff Martin and John Vitti, and there's obviously no interview with John Schwartzwalder because he'll never do an interview.
Yeah. But does he even exist?
Does he even really exist? There are photos of him, but are those photos real?
Didn't they ring him on one audio commentary for a season, and you can hear his voice?
It's funny as well because they talk about Schwartzwalder because they talk about The Simpsons like this frat house, fraternity atmosphere when they were writing, because they were all these kids in their 20s. But Schwartzwalder was so much older than everyone else, and was
an ex-advertising man,
and not one of them. But he's also the funniest guy in the room. And you got interviews with Conan O'Brien in there as well, talking about the monorail episode, which is one of it's an all-timer. A really, really good book. It's a very easy read, and I really enjoyed it.
Oh, great! That's right up my street.
Yeah, I'll bring it in for you.
Oh, thank you. Well, that's all we have time for today. Please remember, click the link in the description of wherever you are, because it would really help us if you do the survey. Do the survey. We need the information of what you like. That will really help us out. It's a good way to support the podcast. And also go over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk to catch up with Monday Night Wars so far. We've had the draft day, which is on PFK, and episode 1. Episode 2 gets crazier on Monday, and then the Chumbawamba tub thumping episode is the week after that.
If you thought the jokes about fingering in episode 1 were a lot, and Ollie and I really giggled a lot, and Dan felt super uncomfortable, just wait for episode 3.
He's between us. He's stuck between us for the whole series. But yes, we will see you on Sunday for WrestlePalooza and All Out. But for now, I've been Ollie Davis. That's been Luca and DAD. Jam that jam.
Jam that jam.